We're going to close out the session, as mentioned, with branded residences, unveiling market trends, insights into the branded residences in the kingdom. And with me today are three experts in the field. We've got Daniel von Barloewen, SVP, as was mentioned before, of Global Mixed-Use Development, Accor. Perhaps you'd like to speak a little bit about Accor and their involvement with branded residences.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here. So, very quick summary. Accor has been doing branded residences for a quarter of a century. We have 180 operating and pipeline projects spread out across the world. And within the kingdom, we have 2 operating projects and 10 in the pipeline. And
of course, Julien, maybe you can speak to Marriott and their involvement as well with the branded residences sector.
Sure, thank you, Ali. So Marriott is the global leader in branded residential. Like Accor, we've been doing that for 25 years. And today we have 280 projects, half of which are under operation and half of which are in the pipeline. And we've been quite active recently in Saudi Arabia with 5 projects, including one with Stephen right there, which is outstanding.
And maybe we can, start with you, Steve. I mean, just in terms of Red Sea Global, I mean, we knew about you from the Red Sea development. That sort of expanded to Amala. And then you have sort of Thuwal as well, which I think a lot of people don't really know about. Can you speak to each of these developments and sort of how the value proposition differs from one to the other?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, Thuwal Island is a private retreat that sits, it's a hospitality offering. There is no branded residential involved there. The 2 big projects that are in the public domain, that is Amala, which sits just south of Neom, spans about 80 kilometers of coastline. We're going to be completing 8 hotels by the end of the year, and within that we have an extensive residential offering which includes branded residential. The real value proposition for Amala is very much centered around wellness. The topography of the site as well is very different to Red Sea. Red Sea project sits about 200 kilometers south of Amala. There it's an archipelago of 90 islands, absolutely exquisite, stunning low-lying sandy islands. And there we've got 16 hotels under development, 5 of which are already open. And we're on track to open 11 more this year. So by the end of the year, we'll have 16 hotels that will be open. And within that, an extensive branded residential offering, as well as some unbranded residences. And we're already in the market selling in the residential project.
Right, so on that, I mean, it's developing branded residences. It's hard, as it is. If you're developing in a city center, you kind of have an idea of the market and you can size demand. But in your case, you're kind of a market maker trying to create a destination. So when you are determining how many branded residences that you're going to build or what you want to develop, how would you even go about that? And what are you looking at? Are you looking at regional developments as your competition? Or is it local, or is it even international?
Yeah, I think with the site that we've got, it's absolutely stunning, and it's going to compete on a global level. In terms of quantifying the demand, we did it from first principles, looking at the size of the market, the addressable market, and what percentage we believed we could capture to be able to achieve a 60 to 70% occupancy rates in rooms. So that's what defined the number of keys that we were targeting. From a branded residential, there it was just looking at creating a high quality complementary product. We've got world-class brands with Accor, Marriott, and some of the other operators. Mm-hmm. And also I think there's another lens that we have to look through it at, and that is our environmental agenda. There is a cap on the amount of inventory that we can develop in the Red Sea because of our commitment to sustainability, and not just preserving it, but enhancing it. So there's a certain traffic that we believe the destination can support whilst we're enhancing that natural environment and protecting it.
So, I mean, you're working with both Accor and Marriott, and I think between the two of you, depending on which numbers you look at, it's about 30% of the total global branded residential market. I mean, Daniel, if I can throw it to you, I mean, what's your view on the key sort of factors that underpin a successful branded residential development?
Well, I think the way Nick and Jerry both referred to it earlier, location is obviously a fundamental component. And when a developer approaches us, we'll also be looking for a developer with a solid track record. Residential, hospitality, someone who knows the ropes, who has been doing it for a long time and will continue to be doing it for a long time. We also look for thorough research that really underpins the buyer profile. Who is going to buy? Why are they going to buy? How are they going to be using their properties? All of those things are fundamental for us to be able to successfully program the right dedicated residential amenities into a project, and then also making sure the developer is going to be hiring the right professional team around them. And that means not just the interior designers and the architects, but obviously also marketing agencies, creative agencies, PR, sales agencies. It's all part of one very successful team that we've seen from the projects that we've had across the world. Those are the ones that have succeeded best. And if you look at from what we've had so far in the kingdom, Diriyah Gate and the Red Sea are two very successful projects in the kingdom.
So, Julien, if I could go to you, I mean, no one likes paying fees, and of course there are fees. You're not doing it for free, of course. How does a developer benefit? What does he get in exchange for the fees that they pay for you, specifically in the sales and marketing period when these projects go to market?
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Ali. So I think the key benefit is brand recognition and the affiliation with a brand and an operator that's been in the market for decades. So if you take Marriott, for example, we've been around for over 90 years, and we've been managing luxury properties for over 60 years. So there is a legacy of trust when it comes to us managing a building and taking care of it on a long-term basis. And then if you look at globally, we have over 9,300 hotels, and millions of people travel across our hotels globally. And they stay in our luxury properties, premium hotels, and they love the time they spend on holidays, on business trip. They know the design of our brands, of our hotels. They know the service that they're getting. So if they are in the market and they are looking for a residence in a particular country, and they see, oh, this is a Ritz-Carlton residence, they know what Ritz-Carlton stands for. They know the level of design, the level of finishes, and the level of service that they're accustomed to. And they also know that through Marriott as a company, we've been managing luxury properties for 60 years, and therefore you bring that trust into the project. So, yes, I want to own a piece of it. This is the ultimate, gesture of loyalty from a customer that you can have when they want to live in it, and they're willing to pay top dollar for that quality of design, services, but also the status of living and owning a branded residence with us. So that the key benefits once you get that is it's very simple business. It's faster sales and a higher premium on the sales prices.
And Steve, with partners like these you've been selling already, what are you finding in terms of demand? Who is it that wants to buy into these developments? Is it end users, or is it investors? And have you considered rental pool programs, or have you stayed away from them?
Well, before I answer that, I'll just finish off on a point you mentioned there. I think not only do we get all of the big machine that Accor and Marriott bring, but also there's the localization that they bring and the customization that they're bringing to our buyers at the moment. We've sold a number of units to very high-profile individuals on the Najuma Island, and there it's amazing to see how these users are enjoying their properties. They're bringing in friends that are also buying it with them. Same again on the SLS. It's not yet handed over, but in terms of the we launched that in February, and we're probably about 60-70% sold out on that so far. And again, that's we've seen the real value of the brands like Marriott and Accor bring. In terms of the buyers, look, it's primarily, first and foremost, it's the lifestyle that we offer. Both Amala and Red Sea offer an incredible lifestyle experience. So without having that, it's not going to even appeal to an investor. So there it's people that are looking at a lifestyle acquisition, but just by virtue of the fact that we have got a scarcity in the quantum of real estate that we can build in our destination, there's also a huge appeal from investors. So yeah, and then we have a rental program, so there that takes it more into the lifestyle investment space. Yeah. So there's annuity revenue for people that are buying individual units that go back into the rental pool. And then with the likes of Accor, we've been discussing how it can be a little bit more customized, where buyers that have a property in the mandatory rental pool can leave their belongings. It's set up when they come back, so there's an element of personalization for the buyers, so they can enjoy it from as a user as well as the income streams that property will generate.
So it's a bit of both. And Julien, maybe from your perspective, I mean, beyond the Red Sea, are there easy signals that you can identify to figure out whether a development is suitable for a rental pool program versus one that is not?
Yeah, I love this question because it comes up all the time. So whenever we work on a hotel project that comes with residences, the developer's instinct is to say, we should offer a rental program. Yeah. And actually the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. When you do a project which is in the ultra luxury space, in really a proven destination or maybe a city center, you may not want a rental program. The reason is you're targeting the highest profiles of buyer possible. They're putting millions into their residences. Very often they want to customize these units, so they can't really be into a hotel rental program if they're customized. But also they don't want their neighbors to change every week with a different family coming for different purposes. They want, like if I'm a high-profile singer, football player, or CEO, I want to be in a residential setting where the only people I'm going to see around me are the same profile as me. I don't want somebody paying a few $100s a night next to my house. So in those cases, the rental program we would probably advise against. But in cases where maybe we're looking at a project where buyers are most likely to be second home buyers, the ticket price may be a little bit lower. It could be in a city or in a resort, and the units are maybe a little bit smaller. They're not big villas and big penthouses. They're more like 1, 2-bedroom, some 3-bedroom units. Then there it might make sense to offer a rental program. To offer the buyer, as Steven said, really the greatest second home experience possible, where when I want to use my unit, I arrive, and I have all my belongings, my golf clubs, etc., that are put into my residence. But when I exit, the team puts everything into storage, and what you're left with is effectively a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom hotel rooms that looks and feel like the hotel, and we can market that as part of the inventory. And it offers them a return on investment while they're not in their unit. And those projects there, then a rental program makes a lot of sense. And we're seeing more and more in the region.
And I would assume as you move down the chain scales to sort of upscale, and even in some cases sort of upper mid-scale, those rental programs would be probably more of something that you would gravitate towards, maybe towards the luxury and ultra luxury. Maybe it'd be something that would be less common if we had to.
Yeah, there's no set rules, but the likely rule of thumb is the higher you go in luxury, the less likely you are to have a rental program. But for example, in Steven's case, where we have the most luxurious property possible, but the setting is so unique, in the Red Sea, that the rental program made so much sense there. But it's not a one-fit-all, it's always a discussion. But as a rule of thumb, the higher you go, and the less likely you are to have a rental program.
And then Daniel, so how about for you guys? I mean, does it matter? Do you look at things differently throughout the design process and when you're getting your approvals, depending on whether it's a rental pool product or one that doesn't have a rental pool, or do you treat them pretty much the same?
No, we will, to Julien's point, we'll look at everything with an aspect of, there's a case by case, but at the end of the day, we'll think about buyer first. So why are they going to be buying here? How are they going to use their properties? Again, in luxury, you will have people who are going to be extremely wealthy. They don't necessarily want to be using the same gym as everybody else, where they're going to have people trying to go, oh my God, it's so-and-so, I've got to get a photo of that person working out, it's going to be all over my Instagram. So they want to be able to have those aspects of privacy, seclusion, so we'll still always look at having a dedicated residences clubhouse with a range of amenities curated specifically for those buyers. So in other words, are these going to be predominantly people in their 30s and 40s, in which case we need to focus more on a kids club? Or are these going to be buyers who are predominantly more in their 50s and 60s, in which case we're talking about games rooms, teen clubs, and so forth? So it's about making sure we've got the right amenities and balancing that against, if it's a rental program that is very much a destination where people will be here for a few weeks a year, you don't need to overload so much to the point where you end up with a service charge. That's just going to make it an impossibility for the developer to sell successfully and a nightmare for us operationally. But we always do think through beyond just the immediate term of the hotel management agreement. We have properties where the hotel is no longer under our brand because we've been doing this for, as we were saying earlier, a quarter of a century. Some things may change, but the homeowners who bought this, to Julian's point earlier, it's the ultimate expression of loyalty in the brand, buying a branded residence under that brand. So if the hotel changes brand, these are people who bought a Fairmont, a Raffles, a Ritz-Carlton, and so forth. They don't want, just because it's now under another brand, with no disrespect to whatever that brand may be, that's an individual who's bought under one thing. They don't want another brand managing their property. So we carefully curate the programming in such a way that if the hotel is no longer under that brand 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, but the homeowners want to remain under our brand, under our management, provided it can work operationally and economically, we will always aim to find a solution to make that work for our residence owners.
And for you, Stephen, I mean, you've been working with these guys for quite some time now, and other operators, as you mentioned, and perhaps without maybe mentioning any particular operator, I mean, how have you found it? Have you found certain challenges in a general sense, and what has really worked for you?
Yeah, tough one to answer. Look, I think each of the brands brings something different, and we've got the benefit when we're building such a diverse range of properties, and they've all been carefully selected for a particular reason. You know, if I look at SLS, which we launched that alongside our Four Seasons private residences, they speak to very different buyer profiles. So for us, what's been great is having partners that we can get to the table early. We can have a two-way conversation or three-way conversation with our architects as well to really curate something that is truly special. So I think for us, it's about having operators that understand us as a developer, understand the vision for the project, and have that commitment to really create something special. And I think the first 5 hotels that we've opened already speak volumes about us delivering on that, and that's thanks to our approach to development and the work of our operating partners. But yeah, I think for them it's really about the operator understanding the role that we want them to play. Yeah. So yeah, that's I think for us it's that early engagement and that upfront commitment which has really helped us create something truly special.
And I'm not sure if this is correct, but I was just walking through the lobby of the office, and I think you've also developed your own brand as well, right? Is that? Yeah,
and look, we opened 2 resorts at the end of last year, Desert Rock and Cheesebrough. There isn't any branded residential associated with them, but we have built operating capabilities. We've been running a 4-star business hotel down on site for the last 3 years, which has also allowed us to develop our own operating capabilities in a remote destination on the Red Sea for quite some time. And now we're going to build our own branded residences as well that will sit complementary alongside some of the international brands that we've got. And again, it's about creating a diverse offering for buyers and you know that complementary sort of lifestyle offering that we've got in our destinations.
And I think unlike many others, I mean, you have already gone to market. I mean, what issues have you sort of faced when going to market with potential buyers, and what has worked, quite well in your marketing strategy?
So, I mean, we only really actively went to the market at the start of this year, so it's probably a bit too early to tell. Last year, we were reactive to people that were coming to us and approaching us. So we had a lot of people that were coming and staying in those first few hotels that opened and expressed interest, and there we were fortunate enough to sell a large number of units. So that got us started. But look, we've been able to see the appetite. I was surprised and I was skeptical about the appetite for a mandatory rental pool product, but that has sold exceptionally well, in particular for SLS. So again, I think to the comments the guys were making earlier, it's about getting the right brand on the right product. And the buyer profile of SLS, it skews nicely to a younger audience, which again, when we look at the Saudi buyers, a fun lifestyle brand, being able to introduce an element of the usage and all the benefits that come with that. So the mandatory rental pool has worked really well, and also layering on top of that lifestyle element and customization piece. And then the optional rental pool has sold really well. Last year we sold probably just shy of 30 units, Four Seasons branded residences, which were an optional rental pool product. And again, so we've seen the market, how they've responded to the different assets that have been put into the market.
So one thing that I think maybe if we can segue a bit, I think this was touched on an earlier panel, and I'll maybe ask you, Daniel, I mean, what are your thoughts on sort of standalone branded residences versus co-located ones? Would you consider them all to be operate quite differently, or do they have certain commonalities?
There are, and I think just before I answer that question, just to sort of, because I know people often have questions on rental pool versus rental program, what are the differences and so forth. Today's just teeing up tomorrow's session where there's a dedicated branded residential track in the future stage where we'll be going into a lot of these discussions, including on legal, marketing. So if anyone has questions they want to go into, tomorrow is the moment for that. In terms of standalone, roughly 30% of our signings that we do every year are standalone branded residences, and it's roughly about 50% of our signings for the Middle East. It's a significantly growing part of the business. Last year, we had, under our brands, our development partners sold about over $1 billion worth of real estate purely in our standalone branded residential projects. So it's very much a major source of focus for us, because it comes back to how are we able to take everything that a buyer is looking for in a co-located scenario. How can we curate that lifestyle hospitality offering for someone in their private home? These are communities for like-minded homeowners. Now, not everyone is buying a standalone branded residence because they're going to use it as their primary home. It could be their second, third, fourth home. It could also be an investment in which they're going to recoup that investment through doing long-term rentals. But regardless of what their purchase motivation is, we're going to take that hospitality service, that anticipation of residence owners or their tenants' needs before they've expressed them, and activate that through periodic events that will organize for the residence owners, a whole raft of a la carte services. So it's really an extension of hospitality into another facet. The same way we extend hospitality is not just about filling rooms, it's about how do we also fill chairs at our restaurants, at our bars. Branded residential is a further extension of hospitality into another business segment.
And I guess if you have a co-located property, to some degree the owner is still there, the developer, and then you also have the branded residential element. But when it's a standalone property, it's kind of a different story, because the developer is sort of out in many ways, and it's just you and the people who bought the units. So I mean, maybe Julien, you could speak on a little bit on what happens after the project is sold and how you deal with that as a company.
Yeah, of course, and I think the first stage comes with the relationship with the developer and how we work on the programming first, on how we're able to then deliver services. But On a standalone residences, there is no hotel. So what really important is that the amenities they're quite supercharged versus a normal residential building. You really have, your residence lounge, you have cinemas, golf simulators, you have wellness areas, indoor, outdoor, incredible spaces. What's very popular nowadays is working space and meeting rooms. And we really, through that, we can deliver the ultimate hospitality experience that we are used to providing in our hotels. And then once the property is delivered, our role is to basically keep the owners really happy and deliver on the service that they bought for. So imagine if you bought a residence, you have, let's say, a Ritz-Carlton or a Fairmont or other brands or the like, you have access to the service and the service philosophy of the brand. So and it actually goes beyond what you would expect in a hotel. In a hotel, if I'm a hotel guest, I stay for a week, maybe 3 days, then I check out. Sometimes the team might know you because you're a return guest, but not always. Yep. In a residence, you live there the whole year. You spend years in there. So our team, our hospitality team, they get to know the families when the kids go to school, through exams, through challenges, etc. And they curate also services through that because they get to know the guest a lot. So you're just organizing your daughter's birthday with jumping castle and everything in the common areas. It could be organizing business meetings in the meeting rooms. It could be having nannies and private chefs and housekeeping and all that. So, and all of that is done at the same level of services that we do in the same philosophy in our hotels. And our role is to keep them happy for decades post-opening by providing these services, basically.
And then you have to probably charge them for it, right? So you've got to figure out, how you sculpt that service charge. I mean, how is that process done? Do you guys do it? I mean, maybe like any of you can take it. I mean, maybe we'll start with you, Daniel. Do you work with the developer to figure it out, or how is that calculated? And how do you allocate costs that are shared between the hotel and the residences?
So, well, we look at carefully at sort of research of the market to understand service charge benchmarks. We'll also make sure that everything, ultimately to Julien's point, we sit down every single year at the AGM, and at a corporate level, we also oversee and make sure that every service charge budget is reviewed, is approved, is justifiable. Our owners expect us to look after their asset, their individual home, in the same way that we look after the hotel assets for our owners. So we will make sure the service charge represents value for money for our homeowners. We run annual homeowner engagement surveys where they can score everything with regards to their general satisfaction with the way the property management is done, with the way that's recognized within the hotel, the rental program, the global owner benefits program. So when it comes to how we allocate costs between the hotel and the residences, there's a very detailed methodology. It could be anything from usage-based factors, it could be square meterage-based, staff-based. Again, you literally have got like 15 different options that you can pick as to how you're going to allocate that cost between the hotel and the residences, because you've got to defend that every single year to our homeowners. Yeah. Because in many jurisdictions, and that's something we can talk about in tomorrow's legal panel, in many jurisdictions, once the homeowners are actually in charge, they have the legal ability to get rid of the management company if they're not happy.
Right.
And a very good testament of why hospitality branded residences are so successful is if you look over the last 30 years and you actually start scratching into how many of these homeowner associations of hospitality branded residences have terminated the hotel brand. I'm personally not aware of any where the HOA has voted to terminate the hospitality operator, regardless of whether it's 25% above the norm or 100% above the norm. These service charges, they deliver value for residence owners, and that's our job to make sure that they understand that and they feel that.
And final question to, please.
I think on this, it's also at the time when you market the residences. You're marketing a product that's being sold sometimes at a 30, 50, 100% price premium over the market. So you're targeting buyers that are really sort of on the top end of the segment, and they demanded a lot of services. So when we then operate the project, they're keen for a lot of these services. They want to know the cost is very transparent. It is higher than a non-branded residential service charge that by nature, but at the end you're also talking to a profile of buyers that are buying for this. So, and our job on the long-term basis, as he said, is to keep them happy. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Well, I think it's pretty clear. I'm sort of getting a feeling that there's no time for a final question. So thank you all for coming. Don't forget tomorrow there's a masterclass on branded residences, 10 o'clock to 12:30. And I'll hand it back to Jesse. Thank you very, very much.